evening, everyone, and welcome to our City Commission meeting. I'll call this meeting to order, and if you'll join me to start off with a moment of silence, and then we'll move to a Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'll have roll call.
Commissioner Perdue?
Present.
Commissioner Sassi?
Present.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Present.
Commissioner Knight?
Present.
Commissioner Robbins?
Present.
Commissioner Moody?
Present.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. And before we move to our first opportunity for public comment, and this is public comment specific to agenda items and items we're voting on tonight, I will ask our translator to come forward. So if you do need assistance with translation services, you're welcome to ask. Do we have? Yeah, there she goes. Hi, welcome.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Yuvia, and we are pleased to provide Spanish interpretation services this evening. This includes interpretation during the meeting for those who want to provide public comment. Buenas noches, me llamo Lluvia. Estamos complacidos de proveer servicios de interpretación en español esta noche. Esto incluye interpretación durante la reunión y para aquellos que quieran proveer comentario público.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So I'll open up our first opportunity for public comment, and this is public comment that is really specific to items we're voting on today. So earlier today, we had a number of commission meetings and discussed and voted on a number of items. For public comment, we ask that you share your name, the city that you live in. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. You can come up here to the podium. Also, just want to remind everyone that this is an official city business meeting, and so we do have some rules and expectations for this meeting space. They are listed there on the wall, but we also want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable speaking what's on their mind, even if we agree with them or not. So we ask that you refrain from using profanity or clapping, cheering, booing, using vulgar language, making threats, or name calling. Also, this body is here to listen to your comments. We're not here to answer questions or to debate. So if you want to speak with somebody afterwards, you're welcome to do that, but I want to make sure that you don't expect someone from up here to respond to your questions or comments. So anyone here to speak on action items or agenda items? All right, seeing none, I'll close that public comment period, and it'll take us to approval of our minutes. These are approval of our minutes from our last meeting, which occurred on January 10th. Commissioners, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, that will take us to petitions and communications, and we have 2 items before us tonight.
A communication received from Dennis Murphy regarding the homelessness crisis.
That is received and filed,
And communication from Kelsey Perdue regarding their resignation from the Community Relations Commission.
and that will be referred to Committee on Appointments, which you now serve on, so we'll refer that to your committee. Next is reports of city officers. We have 2 items tonight.
Comptroller's report for the period of December 28, 2022 through January 10, 2023 in the amount of $20,532,221.34.
That is received and filed.
And finally, a treasurer's report for the period of December 28, 2022 through January 10, 2023.
That is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to our consent agenda. So our consent agenda are items that we talked about and voted on earlier today at one of our standing committee meetings where there was a unanimous vote. So tonight, with one voice vote, we'll adopt those items. Commissioners, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. Any additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, that will take us to ordinances to be adopted, and we have 3 ordinances tonight. And on the third one, I'll have a number of motions in order to have immediate consideration, but we'll start with the very first one.
It's an ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2022-13 for fiscal year 2023, Amendment Number 10.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner Connor from our fiscal committee, you want to tell us about this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A few items on here tonight. Item 1, Parks and Recreation Department. We're just adding a couple of positions to the full-time rostrum for the Parks and Recreation Department rather than using seasonal employees. It's just been important to add permanent employees to these positions as we want to make sure that the maintenance effort in the parks is consistent and available year-round. Second item is adding a full-time golf course parks manager to our golf course at Indian Trails. We're adding to a position, add to the special events department. We're also adding a special events aide. We're using some previously allocated grant dollars to work through the Office of Equity and Engagement for the River for All and the Racial Equity and Economic Equity Grant, which is a pretty significant grant. We approved that a while ago, but this is just the receipt of the remaining 2/3 of the grant money.
Great.
Item 6 is a vehicle reimbursement for the Metropolitan Enforcement Team. Item 7, which is something that I know we continue to talk about, which is the replacement of lead service lines in our community. Just another grant from the EPA for $1.2 million, which will help replace 391 private lead service lines in mostly in the 3rd Ward. The number 8 is, which we got an update about earlier today, was the 2022 FEMA Regional Catastrophic Preparedness Grant, which is certainly great, especially as we deal with the changes in climate and climate resiliency in our community. And our contingent balance remains at $2.5 million unchanged, so this is good news.
Great, thank you. All right, Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, it carries. And Commissioners, can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to our second ordinance to be adopted tonight.
That is an ordinance amending Article 2, Chapter 7, Title 1 of the Grand Rapids City Code pertaining to the police and fire retirement system.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner Moody, you want to tell us about this item?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. Since I sit on the pension board, I want to make this very quick and to the point.
Thank you.
These amendments in no way will have an impact on the future reliability of the pension system, as the city intends to continue to abide by the policies contributed, which is 100% of the recommended annual actual calculated contributions. Also, as required by the state law, any benefit change requires a notice to the city and the city board and board of trustees at least 7 days prior to the implementation of the change. The city commission, board, and the trustee boards and city commissioners were both notified of these changes via email on October 13th of the year 22 for the International Association of Firefighters Union, and on November 28, 22, Police Officers Union. The changes were presented to the City Commission Committee as a whole on October 18th and December the 6th. So this is being presented to us today with the changes.
Great, thank you, and thank you for your service on the pension boards. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, it carries. And can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, so this will take us to our third item. And so, Commissioners, in order to consider this ordinance, can I get a motion for immediate consideration?
So moved.
Support.
All right, and that's not a roll call, is it? All right, all those in favor of immediate consideration of this ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, so I'll ask our city clerk to read the third ordinance before us tonight.
This is an ordinance to amend Section 2.203 and Sections 2.261 through 2.270 of Chapter 32, Chapter City Stormwater Drainage System.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner Isasi, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just looked up, and there is our city engineer, Mr. Berkman, so I know he's also here. Gave us quite a robust presentation on this item this morning. I'll read the first part, and really, we're participating in the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, and it's a federal programming enabling property owners in participating jurisdictions to purchase insurance protection against losses from flooding. Being able to participate in the NFIP program is conditioned upon an agreement that needs to be made between a local governing unit and the federal government, in which we as a city would agree to adopt and enforce a flood plan management ordinance to reduce those future flood risks, and then the federal government agrees to make that flood insurance available within our body as a financial protection against flood losses for residents. So there has been careful local management of development of these floodplains that has resulted in construction practices that can reduce flood losses and the high costs associated with flood disasters. And I know if anyone has any questions, Mr. Berkman is available. It was quite of a detailed presentation. We'll also see a companion item in the future come to us after the flood map is reviewed with the Planning Commission. So that should be later next month. But this is the first step, and we want to make sure we do this in a timely manner with the federal agency.
Yes, thank you. I think that is a good summary. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, and thank you, Mr. Berkman, for being here. So if you are curious about this item, you are welcome to talk to our city engineer. But as the commissioner said, additional information about this will come back before us. All right, there's a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight? Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Sassi?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, it carries. And commissioners, can I give a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, thank you, commissioners. So next, that will take us to our scheduled public hearing. We do have a public hearing tonight on a project, a redevelopment project at 415 Sheldon Avenue Southeast. This is a public hearing to consider a brownfield plan amendment for 415 Sheldon Avenue Southeast, redevelopment project 415. Sheldon Avenue Southeast, and then also a public hearing for the same project to establish a neighborhood enterprise zone for the same development at 415 Sheldon Avenue Southeast. So commissioners, with your approval, just give me a head nod. We'll take both of these public hearings together. We'll start off with a presentation from our Director of Economic Development, and then I believe we have guests here. Is Peter here? Yeah, oh, there you go. So we have a guest here who can add some additional information. We can ask some questions, and then if you are here tonight to be heard on this public hearing, I'll invite you to come up afterwards. So, Mr. Gracia?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So again, this project is located at 415 Sheldon Avenue Southeast, just south of Wealthy Street. And this project is being supported and recommended support from a brownfield TIF and neighborhood enterprise zone. This project is being put together by W&S Development LLC, which is affiliated with Sella Building Company, which is the new name of you would have known as Bazzani Building Company. The site is currently a vacant lot and is a total construction cost of $14.9 million in hard construction cost and total cost of $17.5 million. The new buildings to include market rate apartments with 4 studio apartments, 27 one-bed apartments, and 26 two-bed apartments. And the average ranges between 80 to 140% AMI, with again 1,800 square feet of retail space. The project is estimated to have 8 jobs created with average wages of $17 per hour. This project has also taken a aggressive approach to our inclusion plan, which you know, and they've put a commitment of 17.3%, or approximately $2.6 million of the overall construction costs for the project. And again, we're looking at $1.3 million of investment over 14 years for the brownfield activity in a 15-year neighborhood enterprise zone. Again, this is getting the bonuses that we discussed this morning based on the high inclusion plan numbers, utilizing MLBE, WBE, and MLBE contractors, and adding a covered bus shelter. So the project did receive support from the Seeds of Promise, Mary Freebread, and ICCF. You should know, and I think some of you attended the ICCF ribbon cutting at Tapestry Square recently, and those are affordable units basically on the same site. And these obviously are market rate. So again, meeting our goal of mixed-use development and infill projects right next door to the ICCF project that just opened up. And again, we have a representative from Sella Building Company, Mr. Scornay, here to speak as well.
Great, thank you. Let me see if my colleagues have any questions for you, Mr. Gracia. Commissioners, any questions? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Hi, so kind of in line with the last conversation we had on these, and you were able to provide the letters of support from the business districts, neighborhood associations, CIAs.
Sure.
So you mentioned Seeds of Promise, ICCF. What was the third one, and might we get a copy
Mary
of those?
Free Bed Hospital, yeah. So the hospital just right up the corner there.
And is this in Southtown?
It is. Yes, it is.
Do we know why has the developer engaged with Southtown at all? And
Yes.
okay.
Seeds of Promise. So the Seeds of Promise it's one of those areas. Oh yes, I know what you're. So it's one of those areas. It's kind of like in the middle of, right? And so the Seeds of Promise was the nearest neighborhood association, if you will, that was engaged in the process.
Okay. I'm thinking about the Southtown CIA as well. Wondering if there's been engagement
I
there.
think it's in that.
Yeah,
We
Mr.
can speak to that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll have to look at the lines. I don't think it is within those boundaries.
I don't believe it is either. And I do recall this when the project started, right? And the Seeds of Promise being the neighborhood association essentially that would cover this area. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we can pull up the map and find out for sure, but I
Yeah,
don't think it is.
but again, engagement there and letters of support that are required for the
It does
neighborhood
appear
enterprise.
that it is at the northern end. I mean, it's the last property in the Southtown CA, according to the map we have published on our website.
Okay, we'll double check.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
those lines are weird over there.
would like, Mr. Scornay is here to speak as well, as if there's no other questions for me from the commission.
You know, my only question is, and maybe this is, I don't know who is best to respond to this. I'm curious for parking. There's a lot of parking, and I know even the new ICCF building has parking, as well as the projects over behind the Big B.
Yeah.
Is there going to be shared parking?
So Mr. Scornay will speak to that as
Okay.
well, specifically. Okay.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
All right, well, why don't you come forward, Peter, and we'll have you share some additional information, and then I'll see if there's additional questions around this table, and then we'll open it up for those tonight who are here to be heard on this public hearing. Go ahead. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. We're very excited to reach this important milestone in our project. A couple of things to add. This project started with a conversation with ICCF and their recognized need for market housing. ICCF is, of course, a very important housing provider in that area, and we've been having ongoing discussions with Mary Free Bed about the need for housing for their employees. So this was a perfect opportunity to meet both of those needs. One other thing that I would add, as a builder and a developer, this project will fit within the guidelines of the 2030 district, which Grand Rapids is a member of. It will be an all-electric building, so we're not using any natural gas in the operation of the building. There will be some gas involved in the construction of the building because our equipment, for the most part, is still operated with gas. But once the construction is done, it will be all electric. And the importance of the brownfield, as was addressed earlier in the meeting for flood remediation. The brownfield helps us take care of some of the things associated with this site, and that is dealing with contaminated soil, helping with on-site stormwater detention, and improvements to the public infrastructure.
All right, I'll open up for questions. My first question, this will be one of the few all-electric buildings, is that right?
Correct.
Do you know off the top of your head how many others exist in the city?
I don't have a thorough count.
Okay.
I know it's at least the third because it will be the third one that we have done.
I know. I don't know if any other, I know there's one developer talking about doing one, but hasn't started that project yet. So maybe I'll ask Ms. Sutter to follow up on that. Probably be good for this body to know. All right, questions, commissioners? Commissioner Moody?
Can you, thank you for this. I wanted to find out, give me a little bit more detail about the 57 market rate apartments in terms of when you say 57 market rate, can you tell me what the rate is right now?
Yeah, and that has changed a little bit in the development of it, and depending on how you define the number of people in the apartments. We have, for studios and one-bedrooms, that would be for 1 or 2 people. We define that by looking up, it's the 80% AMI rate, taking that times 30% and for housing cost per month, and then just comparing that against our rent.
And what will that be?
Oh, golly, and I had my facts printed out and didn't bring them. We range from, 1175 to 16 for a, or 1531 for our studio and 1 bedroom.
Is that the lowest?
Yeah.
Okay, my biggest concern is that the area in which this is going to be located is a area where a lot of poverty exists among people. And I was just concerned about families when we're talking about homelessness and people needing a place to cover their head with that kind of rate. It'd be difficult for a person who makes less than $2,400 a year to be able, well, that's a month, but that's some that make less than that to be able to afford to live in that kind of apartment, especially if it's especially if you have what you're saying is a 4 studio, 27 1 bed, and 26 2 beds. It'd be very difficult for a family who really needs a home to be able to stay in this building. So is there any way that you can make it marketable less for people to live in?
Based on our funding for the project is a combination of support from the city, which we're here to request tonight, which helps in the operational cost. With the brownfield, we get that money back over a term, and the NEZ helps with our property tax. So that greatly helps the operation of the project. We're getting funding support, requesting funding support from the state in the terms of an MEDC loan. That reduces the amount of equity that the owners are putting in. We balance that with construction cost. That's what gets us to our rate. We are not using a mechanism for additional support for affordable housing, like a LIHTC program, some of the tools that an ICCF would use. Again, in our conversations with ICCF, they recognize this as a need for the neighborhood, and then conversations with Mary Freebed that in terms of what we were charging, and they felt that those were reasonable rates for their employees.
For employee workforce housing. Yeah. Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think Mr. Gracia alluded to that, correct? That this, I mean, understanding the location of this project, right? This is a piece of ground I think ICCF has owned for quite a number of years, until I think there used to be a bar sitting on that corner 25 years ago when I moved to Grand Rapids. But it's been a vacant piece of ground in our community for some time. Excuse me. If you look at where, historically speaking, the concentration of our low-income housing tax credit projects have happened in Grand Rapids, it is along the South Division corridor between Fulton and Wealthy. And so I think as a community, and as a study of the urban environment, we recognize that a concentration of one type of housing isn't good for any neighborhood, that you need a diversity of housing price points and types and accessibilities throughout a neighborhood. And so we've seen a significant influx of low-income housing tax credit projects along the South Division corridor. And so I think even ICCF, as one of the best low-income housing developers in our community, recognizes that having some market rate mix into that is important. That having we just celebrated the Tapestry Square, which was a low-income housing tax credit project, which is directly across the street from this project. And so I think this is an important component of having a diverse neighborhood with diverse housing price points. There hasn't been market rate housing developed on the South Division corridor to any extent over the course of the last 20 years. And so I think this is an important mix as you try to, we're trying to bring development. I think that's, with the Silver Line, the transit corridor, the Southtown plan, we're trying to, I think it's been the city's desire to want to see development and to see redevelopment happen down that South Division corridor. And I think this is a key component of moving that development to the south and indicating that maybe there's more appetite for market rate housing in the South Division corridor.
Yeah, and that was part of the conversation, even when we were doing the corridor plan for division.
Mayor,
City Manager?
perhaps Mr. Gracia could give more insight on the neighboring project that has more affordable housing units than the 57 market rate
I do.
units that are being discussed.
Yep, so I do have the information, anticipation of the question about what the rates are at ICCF for the Tapestry Square. So again, 56 units at the Tapestry Square project, 50 of those are affordable and financed through the LIHTC credit. So there are 6 market rate apartments within the Tapestry Square development that just opened. Those ranges, again, because of the LIHTC, as we discussed this morning, range from $400 up to $1,600. So the market rate apartments are between $1,250 and $1,600. So that is aligned very similarly to what we're talking about for these market rate apartments that will be next door that are not supported by any LIHTC program. So the importance of the LIHTC makes a significant difference in the affordability of the project immediately adjacent to this. But again, it's the support we've got that the developers received excuse me, from ICCF. And again, our goals of mixed income neighborhoods and housing is why we believe this is a good project.
Okay, that's helpful. All right, Commissioners, any additional questions before I open it up for individuals who are here tonight to be heard? All right, thank you. Thanks. All right, so if you are here tonight to be heard on this project, you are welcome to come forward. Again, we ask that you share your name, the city that you live in. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. So this is specific to this request by the project, for this project development at 415 Sheldon.
Good evening, Lucas, First Ward. So, as I'm apparently going to make a habit of pointing out, this project aims for 6.9% minority-owned involvement, while our population consists of 47% minority, and 6.9 women-owned involvement, while our population is 52% female. So these numbers are way too far apart, but they're better than the ones from 2 weeks ago, so I'll give them that. They only plan to offer 4 units, supposedly below 80% AMI, at the ridiculous estimate of $1,175 for a 417 square foot studio, like we just heard. Mr. O'Connor, I appreciate the diversity of housing comment, but I don't understand why that can't come in the same building. Why does the other building have to be the only one with a diversity of housing, and this one gets to be high dollar? If the personal income of anybody building or developing in this town is higher than $75K per person, to me, they have room to take a cut and serve the community better. I do think we deserve more info. I'm hoping the gentleman has it on what the ICCF development offers, and if there are any that are 20 to 30% AMI, as we've covered many times in this room, is really where we have to be to fix the problem. You say $600, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was $600 for a 300 square foot IKEA demonstration room, right? So let's get more specific. I'm a little concerned, and the mayor, I thought you were going here, but you didn't really play this out, so I will. 57 housing units and retail, but only 30 planned parking spaces. So this is offloading additional parking to corporate welfare for street parking and a dodgy transit system that we don't have total control over. Even I have some blind spots on my understanding of brownfield, but I'm serious when I praise Mr. O'Connor for laying that out for us and speaking up last time. I'd like to learn more about how much of it exists versus how much of it is just available to developers to like slide in like an economic DM. There needs to be a little bit more transparency about how that works. It's kind of low-key inside baseball for the financial benefit. I I don't know a lot about the neighborhood enterprise zone yet, so I think this would be a nice time for somebody to discuss that instrument, much like you did with Brownfield. Inform people about how much of that is noble versus just more of the same routine of business attaching to the government teat. They accuse a lot of us about, having takers in the liberal movement, but I'm seeing a lot of taker discussion in these kind of proposals. It really seems like these projects need to have more scrutiny. Again, I'm not going to just crap on this one. It's the whole system. It's awfully permissive. It lacks a lot of tough questions, but I appreciate that you guys have asked more of those questions. GR just needs to stop being the beta bottom in these negotiations. Like, stand up for yourselves, stand up for us, and stand up against the banks and the corporate investors.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Mark from Grand Rapids. Here we go again. I understand the brownfield money and all that stuff, but come on. 80 to 140% AMI. Not even the employees at Mary Freeberg can't afford that. I understand that they want to create Langdon's loss. That I don't have a problem with it, but the way it has been discussed, that's a red flag to me. Nobody's not going to spend nearly $1,200 for a studio unit. That's insane. You're trying to be San Francisco, where you have the same amount of square miles as Grand Rapids, but dwellings that are astronomically priced. And unlike Grand Rapids, Frisco is not kid-friendly. You better think about this. Because if it goes up, the only people who go to afford it are the people who go come into Grand Rapids looking for a place to live with big money and deep pockets. While the residents who've been living in that area for years will be priced out and shipped out to places where they don't want to be at. And that will be a big problem. And you don't want that to happen. Because these developments, you're getting the big investors are getting too much. And chaos is going to be just around the corner. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Others wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Hi, I'm Ebony, resident of Grand Rapids. I don't even know where to start. I see the plan and it says it's going to get 8 jobs available at $17 an hour. I can barely afford to stay in the place I'm at now and I make 19. So how is $17 going to afford a place like that? Then it says, I keep seeing you guys keep allowing people to come in the community and build these so-called affordable homes. We have no room for families that got 3, 4, 5 in a family, because you're only letting them build 2. They coming in just to build a studio, 1 or 2 bedrooms. Where's affordable housing for 3, 4 bedrooms for us? Yeah, like I said, I don't even know where to begin with it all, but that shouldn't be approved. I don't know if you all know that area, seen the people that live in that area. That is just not right. No one can afford that price, not in that area at all. We need something more affordable to keep our people in the community and not keep pushing us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right, others wish to be heard?
How you doing, everybody? My name is DeAndre Jones. I stay here in the city of GR. I like the project. I like it because it's a sustainable project. It looks like it's going to be like a LEED certified platinum project or a LEED certified type of project. I always talk about sustainability and renewable energy, and I like that it's on the south side. It's the third ward, the least invested side of the city, where they only put $19 million over a year span. And I just like that we'll have some more units for people to stay in, but I don't just think that it's affordable for people on the south side, for people that grew up in the hood. Like, it's a beautiful site and I like it, but can y'all just work on the affordability of it? Like, I would like to see sustainable, renewable energy powered homes that people could afford in the hood, that people can go and live in a beautiful property on the south side. It's nothing to really be proud of. It's not a lot of development that people can be proud of. And some of those development projects are still in the works. And I seen that earlier, that it's a lot of investment, a lot more investment than I expected in the third ward. But I just like to see sustainable, renewable energy powered homes, apartments, these studios. That's pretty expensive. What about, parents and young parents? What about the women and the young black African American men that that stay in the lead paint homes? What if they need a home there and they can't afford it? I like the project. I really truly do like this project, but I just wish that it was just more affordable. And I just wish that that you guys could try to work something out to make it more affordable for people on the south side, because people tired of struggling. People tired of struggling. It's inflation. It's serious out here. Poverty is serious. Some of y'all don't walk over there on the south side. It's cold outside, but people like me walk out there on the south side still to this day. Still dreaming dreams, still dreaming of changing the city, still dreaming of, creating economic change. I posted all of the slides from the economic development briefing earlier today. You can get on my Facebook and look at it. Like, I'm really serious about this. I really want people to be able to afford beautiful homes, these beautiful apartments that this city is building. These are going to be beautiful. ICCF does beautiful homes. Those homes are gorgeous, but I just wish that people of color would be able to feel the, the beauty. White people are going to be affording these homes. People that have good paying jobs, almost six-figure jobs, are going to be able to afford this. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard on this public hearing?
Mayor, you combined two hearings. Does that mean that we can ask for a little more time?
No, and thanks for the opinion. Anyone else who wishes to be heard on this item? All right, we're going to close that public hearing, and that will be referred back to the committee of the whole. All right, that will take us to our last opportunity for public comment. So if you're here tonight to be heard on any other item, you're welcome to come up. Again, same rules apply. We ask that you share your name, the city that you live in, and you'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak.
How you doing, everybody? My name is DeAndre Jones, again, or D Jones, whatever you prefer to call me. I'm happy to be here because I ran into my state senator. This is actually my state senator in my district, and I like to talk to my politicians, and I like to educate people to talk to their state representatives, their county commissioners, their city commissioners, because people will stay on their side of town, and they swear they know everything, but then when those important things that affect their everyday life, they don't know those people that create those changes every day. And so it's cool to run into my state senator. I knew he ran against David LeGrand, and I seen that he won, so I was like, hey, I got to go talk to that guy. But I like to talk about the work that I've been doing with Kent District Libraries and a couple different communities across Kent County. So I went to Granville because I used to stay in Granville. When I used to sell cannabis because I was on SSI and I wanted to get money, and my mom used to argue with my mom about checks and stuff like that, and my crib got raided, and my high school basketball coach took me in, and she stayed in Granville. So I stayed in Granville. So I went to go speak to the Granville public schools about esports and just, creating change over there and expanding my ideas and just my vision. I got to speak to, I actually went to the bar. It was crazy. I went to the bar. I was just really trying to go over there, vibe, turn up, dance, see some fine girls, and just kick it, to be honest. And then I ended up running into a principal over there on the east side from Cario. I was like, hey, do y'all got esports over there? She said, no, we don't. I was like, well, can I help you guys build an esports program in your district? And she was like, yeah, send me some information. It was crazy. But also, I got to present esports yesterday to GRPS, and I got to progress with that. And now we're actually going to go to an esports facility where we'll all be able to connect and see esports firsthand. I'm pretty excited about that because I'm a visionary. I got a global vision, and I believe that I can contribute to the economy. I believe that for generations to come, that I can be able to help the youth, the next generation of youth, people now, people that love gamers, people that want to do cool and creative things. I'm really working and striving towards that every day, and just staying authentically myself, not changing who I am or pretending to be somebody that I'm not, and I'm working towards it every day, and it's coming to fruition. I got to connect with Bank of America. I got to talk to him about esports. I got to connect with the guy who handles real estate for Bank of America and talked about esports. And then he asked me to send him information so we can build an esports program in his wife's district. Like, it's crazy. You know, I'm black, I'm African American, and I'm actually being able to change the infrastructure. We're going to do a stress test at KDL where I can bring my video game or my TV, and I can come over there and play any game that I want to, so we can help change their library's infrastructure, their Wi-Fi, the equipment that they'll need to build the esports program. So I'm really excited. You guys will be seeing me a lot, and I'm going to be contributing to the economic situation of our city, and I can't wait. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right, others wish to be heard?
Good evening. My name is Nelisha, and I'm a resident of Wyoming. I'm here because I would like to say that homeless lives matter, but as a person who has lived homeless experience, homeless lives don't matter in Grand Rapids. I was homeless. I lost my apartment 5 years ago. I reached out to the Salvation Army's housing assessment program 8 times within a 14-month period. I have been a victim of familial discrimination repeatedly. So in addition to having lived homeless experience, I have conducted a substantial amount of research against the Salvation Army. And this is not an isolated incident. I haven't seen my daughter in almost 4 years. Because I had reached out to the Salvation Army for a 3rd time when I was homeless with my child. September 17th, 2018, I was literally homeless at a Burger King. And I was told in order to receive assistance that I would have to sleep outside sleep outside, which meant that I would have to sleep outside with my 13-year-old daughter. People who are unhoused are at risk of being victims of bias-motivated hate crimes, as well as sexual assault. I had no support system in Kent County. I had to send my daughter to her paternal family members in another city. I have been a victim of parental alienation, racism, discrimination, you name it, I've been a victim of it. The Salvation Army owns $11.3 billion in assets, collectively speaking. In 2021 or 2022, they grossed $4.2 billion. So it's not a matter of insufficient funds to fight homelessness. It's a matter of insufficient funds being allocated to fight homelessness. And I have yet to see the Salvation Army held accountable for the familial discrimination that I was subjected to repeatedly. I have my homeless management information system file from the Coalition to End Homelessness, as well as the Salvation Army, and there are lies, omissions, and inaccuracies from the Salvation Army. So as a mother seeking refuge for my child and myself, and to be told that I would have to sleep outside. I have followed the chain of command from Grand Rapids to the United Kingdom, and I have yet to see accountability. They failed to adhere to HUD's criteria for defining homeless when I qualified for 3 out of 4 categories. My child qualified for the McKinney-Vento program, and I was still denied. I have been speaking out. I have spoken to hundreds of people on social media. I've spoken to people in Grand Rapids, and it's time for nonprofit organizations to have oversight and accountability, because I never should have been separated from my child.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Okay, Okay, still Lucas, First Ward. Quick note of thanks to Mr. O'Connor and Mayor Bliss, each of you for taking coffee meetings and establishing some common ground. I'm looking forward to building on that. A year ago, I set foot in this chamber the first time to ask some hard questions about police chief finalists. I had only been here for 6 months and planned not to attend every commission meeting. On April 4, everything changed. I've attended more meetings here than the prior 2 decades in my life. I want you to think about the major events of 20 years and how GR topped that in 8 months. This is a wonderful city. We got many issues, but there's a lot figured out. I like to tell people back home that GR has sewers 4 times older than the metro government of Nashville, but they both smell the same. The reality is we are out of patience and out of trust. Theocratic nationalists and wealthy sociopaths throw tantrums at their looming reckoning, and they seem like they are in an endless effort to attack the unhoused. You didn't have to give oxygen to the lies of the Grand Rapids Chamber and those few that signed on with them, but you did. I say few because while only about 100 of them spoke up, you acknowledged the receipt of about 600 letters in opposition, and I would think that that scoreboard speaks volumes about who deserves a seat at the table. You set the tone and you choose the ways that the discourse will go. And now you've spent a month doing damage control on that chamber trash that you never needed to entertain or give a spotlight to. Nothing is as bad as any side of the culture war makes it out to be. I'll admit that. I know that's a statement that'll piss off a handful of people all around, and I've never really cared about people that had their feelings hurt by hard truth. The right and left need to thicken their skin and grow up. Is everybody in the chamber letter evil? Nah, some are. They see only trash to be swept out of the way of capitalism. Some are just dumb. They don't know current laws, they never had the curiosity to find out, and they fell for the ruse of the suggestion that those ordinances were somehow humane. Some of the dumb ones even include people who apparently work in PR and they were stupid enough to sign on to beat up on the poor at Christmas time. Some are just lost in a fog of aloof libertarian disregard for other humans. Between that foolishness and this government ignoring warnings that GRPD would eventually kill someone, we all have to come here and push you to be better. And as I've said before, because of us, I think you are better leaders. I don't pull punches when people should know better. We don't live in those times anymore. I can like you, I can have coffee with you. I'm willing to tell you when you're screwing up. Like a lot of people here, I'm just trying to defend against the nefarious operators that seek to oppress people for their own gain. And all of this brings me to one of my favorite movie lines from Jules in Pulp Fiction. I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd.
Thank you, Lucas. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hi, Mark back again. The last meeting, one of the sure supporters said that America is in chaos. She's right about that. We are about to be in a crisis. In Florida, the hedgehog, Ron DeSantis, is on his way to eliminate black history altogether in Florida. Because he feels that white people would be uncomfortable talking about black history. And furthermore, 2 years from now, he's going to be running for president of the United States. Not good. And in addition to that, a group called Moms for Liberty is going around all over the country trying to get rid of every single black superintendent in all the school districts. They accomplished it in South Carolina. But I'm going to give a word to these individuals. Don't come to Michigan pulling that crap. Not here in Grand Rapids, and especially not in Detroit. And I'm sorry I almost had to say this, but I'm going to say it. If you pull that stunt like you did in South Carolina, here, and especially in Detroit, you are going to get your ass whooped.
Okay.
We don't play that game here.
Mark, watch your language.
So you better go somewhere else with it. That is why we have to continue to mobilize and vote. Not 2 years from now, mobilize right now. Because if not, you will have an individual who wants to get rid of black history entirely. Because he feels that the Underground Railroad aligns with critical race theory, which is not. So be ready, because it's going to happen. Remove J. Edgar Hoover's name from the FBI building. Remove George Wallace's name from Tacoma, Mobile, Alabama. Justice for Patrick Leorta. And recall Ron DeSantis. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Others wish to be heard? Thanks. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Washington and members of the ICP and new commissioners. My name is Rob Metzger. I'm here for 312 Prospect Northeast, and I live on Kennesaw in East Grand Rapids. I am here tonight in something strange for the city in that I'm here to hold myself accountable. I don't want to be here, actually. Most people don't know it, but every time I set foot here, I actually do so at risk to my life. A longer story, but I can also directly at some point in the future attend to that because it's a hazard in this city. Spinal cord injury, hyperreflexia. So if I go down, it'll be a stroke. It won't be a heart attack. I'm here because I have a ethos in that I do not have the right to complain unless I have at least one solution. So I actually put up 5. I'm at the point where I have tens, if not hundreds of millions of reasons to hate your guts. But I'm here anyway because I love this city more than I hate you. I'm trying to figure out how the best way to say it, but my experience is that this city breaks the rules for some, and you smack the rest of us with petty rules and arbitrary enforcement. And that's tyranny, since none of you learned your history. So I'd like to ask you to grow up and find your integrity or step down, as that level of hypocrisy is too epic for most of us to swallow anymore. I'm here with an additional demand in those 5 demands I put together for you, and that is that everybody on this commission be required to read the ordinance once per year, as well as all city managers, because we deserve better than useful idiots, which is all we've had for 30 years that I can attest. I'm going to come back in December to follow up on these demands. I hope to see some significant progress on them. If not, then I expect the answer to 2 questions from all of you. How do you sleep at night with the lives you destroy because of your fecklessness and incompetence, your duplicity and your tyranny? Is it a requirement to be a sociopath to work for this city? I'm done, Madam Mayor, but please don't thank me for my comments. You and I have had interactions now for 18 years, and you've dismissed me every single time from the beginning. And the one thing I've learned about this city is it defines depraved indifference, and you own that now. The rest of you stop patting yourselves on the back of how great you're doing or what you're going to do and start demonstrating it. Do better. Be better. Amen.
All right. Others wish to be heard?
My name is Donnie, and I'm a Grand Rapids Rapidian for the last 30 years, right? I come up here today so I can talk about this upcoming fiscal year budget. Now, one of the things that we're guaranteed throughout these last fiscal year budgets is that the 49507 gets left out. It's time to make a change on that. It's time to make a change so that we can hold our police accountable. It's time to make a change so that we can hold our community
to a higher standard. So I've been going and participating in these community meetings, right? Getting together with individuals, trying to brainstorm as to what we think when we reimagine Grand Rapids for ourselves, what that looks like. And a lot of people are getting caught up on percentages and dollar amounts. But if we're putting percentage and dollar amounts above caring and putting resources into the hands of people who need them, then what are we actually doing other than nursing funds, sitting on funds? It's 39% is how much of the city funds goes to Grand Rapids Police Department. If Grand Rapids Police Department is the only programs here that keeps up with the means of the rate of inflation since 1990, then it's only fair to assume that we can reverse and change that, right? They've gotten the most money for decades. It's not helping and it's not working. So in order to continue to make sure that our community is going to thrive, then we need to start putting forth more money into mental health care, into addiction therapy, into actual affordable housing that's going to save people before they go homeless and after they go homeless, right? To reinsure that that's also going to be a possibility that GRPD doesn't damage the community here anymore, the community is demanding that they have their own liability insurances. If doctors can accidentally kill somebody on the clock and they still have to pay for it, GRPD should be able to pay for it. They have more than enough money to pay for the lives that they take. Justice for Patrick Lyoya. Justice for Patrick Lyoya.
All right, others wish to be heard?
I'm Casey from the 3rd Ward. I got the best letter from the city. I'm getting my lead pipes replaced. And guess what? First, after your specialist told us that we don't have lead, only in the paint, and then they told us that we don't qualify, only if your kids are under 5, and then they said, well, we can only replace it from the road to the sidewalk, but the sidewalk to the tap, that's your landlord's responsibility, so we'll see, right? And here it says you're actually going to replace it on my whole street, and you're going to replace not only from the street, but all the way to the tap, and then you're going to repair it for a year for the landlord. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks. So Ottawa County, you guys been watching what's happening in Ottawa County? They changed their motto. Instead of where everyone belongs, it's where freedom rings. Then they eliminated their diversity and inclusion group. So they also, it was privately owned, privately funded, completely privately funded, but they voted not to give that money back to the private donors. They also defunded their libraries and schools. And then they fired one of their commissioners, offer it out of nowhere. No, they just instantly fired them, and guess who they hired? John Gibbs. Doesn't he live in Kent County? And you know what they say while they look us in the face? It sounds strikingly similar to you guys, actually. We're doing a lot, you just don't see it. It's not illegal. With Grand Rapids being projected as the #1 city, as Detroit's population continues to decrease and Grand Rapids continues to rise, you make it blatantly obvious over and over that how you want to run that is as a business, and that the population itself doesn't matter. You can tell by the way that you put $900,000 into the golf course on Kalamazoo and 28th, and then you put $1.2 million into the unhoused population as a whole. Golf course, unhoused population as a whole. But which one creates more revenue? But you can't give the unhoused somewhere to live because that'd be enabling. But you can give them tickets and you can arrest them because that will create revenue. be less like Ottawa, do more steps like this, and give people hope, right? You have the authority, we don't, and we've been saying the same thing over and over and over. Some of you are new here, some of you are giving us hope, but like, let's see what you can really do with it aside from like show face. Like go all the way from the street to the faucet. Justice for Patrick.
All right, others wish to be heard?
Good evening, Mayor, our City Manager, Mark Washington, and all of the constituents. My name is Sarah Hampton, and I'm a resident of 3rd Ward. I'm here, this is real personal for me. It's involving the amending the property maintenance code to inspect rental homes built before 1978. First, I'd like to say one of my dearest friend's daughter, 3 years old, died of lead poisoning. And what concerns me, I attended a meeting, I think it was January 5th, where they invited property owners. I'm a property owner, so there were developers there, and this was discussed. I'm very concerned because of the those that were there that did not want to participate or did not want to amend the property maintenance code for this, to abate this lead. So I was very concerned about the lack of support to amend this property code. So we're talking cost and life here. So maybe, there needs to be some education on what this does to our children. How it affects the body and the growth. It causes problems with your nervous system, kidney damage, learning disabilities, ADHD, speech, lots of issues with our youth. I was really quite surprised. I understand there's money involved, but the landlords are paid, from what I'm hearing. The rents are just really out the box, right? So why can't we use some of that money to abate this lead hazard? We're talking lives here and children. So then I went a little further, and there are, I guess 49507 has a high concentration of lead. So what is the problem here? I really thought I was going to go in there and we were going to discuss this. It's okay, yeah, we're going to change this. But that was not what I was faced with. So as a concerned citizen... and
I'm sorry, Lord. Your time's up. Your time's up. Thank you for your comments, though. Really appreciate it. Thanks. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard? Welcome, Senator.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to address your body. It's my pleasure to say hello and to be proud to represent this new 30th District, which includes everything in Grand Rapids north of Fulton Street. I'm excited to assume this role and responsibility in Lansing. For those of you who don't know me, I was a mayor of Walker, so I've been where you are, and I think that's probably one of the things that uniquely differentiates me from others in Lansing is that I try to work together, and I've always been one to work in a bipartisan fashion. I look forward to representing the city of Grand Rapids, as well as the rest of my district, which starts all the way out in Allendale and Coopersville, goes all the way across the city of Grand Rapids. Walker includes Rockford, as well as Cascade, Ada, Grand Rapids Township, and Plainfield Township. So I just wanted to say hi, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. We're glad to have you as a strong voice in Lansing for us. And
Madam Mayor, is it possible that you can come back and, Senator, tell everybody who your name is? Because everybody here might not know who you are.
Thank you, Commissioner Moody. Commissioner, thank you. Senator, please introduce yourself.
Sure. Sorry, my name is Mark Heisinga, Mayor, the Senator for the 30th District.
Former mayor of Walker, who I had the.
Walker Mayor, and I was a state representative before I was in the Senate. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who you are, but I want to make sure somebody.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. All right. With that, we'll close that public comment period, and I will turn to my colleagues, and I'll start down here with Commissioner Perdue.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Whew. There were some heavy stories you all shared today, and I thank you all for participating, for sharing and giving us a lot to think about and to consider. I think one of the biggest challenges of kind of serving in this seat is not only deconstructing what isn't working, but trying to reconstruct a new reality, what can work, right? And you all brought up a lot of really great tensions, even earlier today in our conversation around the potential lead ordinance, around housing, and particularly with housing. And I've been saying this a lot, particularly in the last year when I was campaigning, that it's such a tension point because housing really is, and property and real estate ownership is a wealth building strategy, right? So it is about profit, but it's also a basic human right. And so those two ideals are often in conflict, and we are tasked with your cause for accountability, your support, your ideas, your thought partnership to figure out how to find some synergy, to find some solutions that work for all of us. Because right now we know that what we have now is not currently working for all of us. So just wanted to, just acknowledge that, and thank you all for, again, sharing some really real, heavy, serious stories. Last week or last meeting, we talked quite a bit about housing, and I heard you all say tonight, I had some conversations in the hallway around oversight and accountability, and that's something that we brought up at this body of we have a lot of folks at the table who have really critical roles within our housing systems that are not necessarily always living up to kind of that role that is understood or should be. And so I know that I've heard around this table that we're committed to exploring that further and hoping to do that together. Also, just want to highlight a few, this is my second meeting in this seat, and so I'm about 1 month in, woohoo, and I have had the opportunity to vote on some things that I think are really important for the city in the 3rd Ward, electrical vehicles at the golf course, behavioral support for our police officers, safety improvements in terms of streets and traffic on Burton between Buchanan and Breton, as well as additional housing units that we know that are needed. I also want to, lastly, invite you all. We have, I think, about 40 boards and commissions that residents and even non-residents are able to serve upon that really get to a lot of the crux of some of the issues that you all are bringing up. And we have about, I think, over 30 openings right now, over 30 openings. And so I really want to invite you all to take a look to see if you are interested, where your skills and your advocacy might be able to be of use on some of those mostly volunteer boards and commissions with the city. So I just want to kind of leave with that invitation. If you want to learn more, myself, Commissioner Yasasi, and Commissioner Robbins are all on that appointments committee. So thank you all again.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Yasasi.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for coming out this evening. Appreciate the shout out for the appointments piece. It's the 8 o'clock meeting, so we kick off the day. My first volunteer role for the city was in 2006 on our Civilian Appeals Board. And I just encourage employers, too, if you're looking for ways for your employees, nonprofits, wherever you might be, that's a great opportunity to connect and to learn more about the city and to give back. I wanted to say just thank you for those that came out. Ms. Hampton, thank you for sharing your thoughts from the, there you are, from the town halls that were held. We heard about those and heard about the engagement. And I think the good news is you're coming to this meeting. We just received a briefing today. City staff provided us a lot of good answers to the questions that we had today. And, my comment at the end of that was to really bring back an ordinance for our review and consideration. So thank you for sharing that perspective. Also, thank you to the Economic Development team, to Mr. Gracia, for sharing some of the pieces around our economic development tools. I think that was, I think it's helpful. The reality is, I was looking at one of the presentation pieces, and I think the grid was like a 5x5, a lot of detail, a lot of consideration. I think it's up to us to, to be transparent, but also recognize that we may not all agree on how these, maybe support or not support for how tools are used. And I think that's sort of the next arena that we have. That will certainly play out in these next steps, but appreciate that additional feedback. And then in terms of additional ways to connect in with the city, Commissioner Perdue talked about the appointments process, but also I think at the door coming in, Ms. Turkelson, I saw here earlier, and others, our master planning engagement process are starting to begin. So please take a look for that. A lot of different organizations are working together to make sure that happens in a lot of different ways. So encourage you to be part of that 20-year process. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner O'Connor?
Thank you, Mayor. I think a few things. First, just as it relates to the conversation around the in-house community in our community in Grand Rapids. I know we were supposed to have an update today on public safety, but unfortunately, due to an illness of one of our key presenters, we did postpone that meeting. We're hoping to reschedule that for the next time we're all together here for commission, and I look forward to that ongoing dialogue. I know there's been a lot of frustration about the communications that were shared about a month ago, well, we may not have. We've talked a lot about that, but I feel like there's been, at least in my personal life, in dealing with my colleagues, with folks, service providers, with folks operating in the space to assist with housing and the unhoused, I feel like we've had better conversations and more substantive dialogue about the challenges that operate within those systems, and it's really forced, I think, a more robust conversation that I'm actually really happy that we're having. It's, I think, helped move the conversation along, and I hope that there's going to be substantive changes that come about. And I don't think it's going to be the changes that we're asked for, but I think it's going to we're actually going to maybe have some real frank discussions we've been probably avoiding having for a long time. And so I'm hopeful that this was a kickoff point to something better for people in Grand Rapids. I wanted to just say thanks to the city manager and our economic development department today for providing the update around the economic development tools we have in Grand Rapids. I think that was something we asked for a while, and I feel like it was a really a great framing of what tools are in our toolbox and how they can be utilized. And I don't think that's the end of those discussions. I think there's certainly questions we're waiting to have some more answers to, but I feel like it was a great place for all of us as commissioners and for the community to just learn how those tools exist and why they exist and what they can be used for and what leverage points they play on. I think my next ask will be maybe when I first became a commissioner, I sat down with a couple of my colleagues here and a nonprofit housing provider and a construction company, and they kind of laid out a pro forma for a for-profit and a low-income housing tax credit project and how that all works and where the push points are at and how much it costs to build it and where the capital stack lines up and how it gets financed. And it was a really, I think one of the more valuable things I've had the privilege of learning about as a commissioner that really helped inform a lot of the decision making I've made over the last 7 years as a commissioner. Just as we were talking tonight with the proposal for the NEZ and the brownfield, I started, just doing some basic math in that conversation, right? It's a $17.5 million project. It's got about 50,000 square foot of square footage between the two buildings. That equates to roughly to $350 a square foot. By the time you apply a brownfield tax credit, which is dollars they have to expend, but that will recoup if they do all their things, that may lower the price per square foot down to $323 a square foot. But there's a gap then that exists, right? If we want to get things to a certain AMI price point so that people can afford them and they can reach a certain threshold based on income limits, there's a gap that exists, and those are based on the tools that we have in our toolbox that we all learned about today. The city as a participant in that marketplace doesn't have enough tool in the toolbox to be able to make up that difference, right? So we need, thank you, Senator, for being here. We rely on state help, right? Like low-income housing tax credits are a state-run program, and the reason that we can get low-income housing tax credit projects built in Grand Rapids is because the state provides a tool that allows a developer to access that tool based on certain qualifications so that they can make up the difference. And looking at those units, an 800 square foot unit costs, somewhere between $260,000 and $285,000 per unit to build. And yet, you put that in a mortgage for 30 years and you amortize that out if you're buying a single family house. What does that come out per month? It's way more than anything in the, the AMI structure that people are asking for. So we got to make up that difference. And again, we as the city of Grand Rapids don't have enough tools in our toolbox to do that. I think we'd all love to be able to just, reach into the coffers and find that money to be able to make that magically appear, but we don't have that. So, I think that's the next discussion. I think I'd really like to for all of us to be able to wrap our hands around is how does that capital stack work? How does a project go from, idea in my head or idea in someone's head to reality? And what does that look like? So that we all know when we're either supportive or dismissive of some sort of financing mechanism, that we know what we can and can't do and how we can and can't make something come to life. And I think, every project can't, and I used to say this to one of our colleagues who I love dearly, every project in Grand Rapids can't solve every problem, right? Like some projects are going to solve some problems really well and some projects are going to solve other problems really well, but not every project can solve all of our concerns. And so I hope we get to a point where we can, start asking the right questions and then hopefully be able to ask our partners in Lansing for help that we can't provide.
Commissioner Knight?
Well, I'm all the way down here at the end, and it seems like everybody said everything I was going to say, almost, but I'm never without words. Thank you all for your time and coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts. A lot of the things that were brought to our attention tonight during public comment were things that we had talked about during the day, and there are always questions. I think that myself and my new compadres on this commission are constantly asking questions about how we can do better as a community. And thank you, Commissioner O'Connor, for those statements. Every project can't solve every problem, but I will always say we can do better. There are opportunities, and we need to step back and think about how we can be a little more creative. To be able to afford $1,100 for 400 square feet, that's tight for anybody, right? And if it's only catering to people that are working over at Mary Free Bed, then it's not really catering to the people who lived in that community. And I grew up in that space at Franklin and Union. Matter of fact, I covered all of Grand Rapids at one point in time in my life. So I understand the pain points, and some of the things that I have been sitting here thinking about is, well, what is the average income of people that live in that area? Because there was a link that was in that document that showed income and rent limits from across, published by the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. But I'm still wondering what income they were going off of, right, to come up with these numbers, because it's hard for me to figure that out when you're spending $14,000 or a little bit more just on rent for a studio apartment when you have other things that you have to take care of, such as insurance and food and clothing for your children. And if you have to pay for your health insurance, what that might cost, right? And if you're paying for student loans, oh my God, right? How do you live? How do you take care of your family? How do you support them and still be able to have some type of peace so that you can get through day to day? I understand that struggle because I've been in it before. And so we have to do better. Everything isn't for everybody, and I know we have to work to try to build up our community better, but we need to make sure that we're not pushing them out and that we're helping people have access to the things that they need so that they can live healthy and successful lives. So I thank you all for your support. I thank you for giving us a little bit of grace here tonight, because we're still working our way through the stuff. But we hope to connect with you all and continue to have these conversations so we can do better as a community.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Roberts?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. As Commissioner Knight alluded, I know she talked a lot about the complexity of many of these issues. I know I'm learning a lot, and I don't think that I'm alone in knowing that there are so many moving pieces to wrap our minds around. And so one thing I want to be intentional about as a commissioner and as, part of this body is to, how can we better equip the rest of our constituents to engage in those conversations? And I think that starts with us, giving more resources to learn how those work. And so I did want to say thank you to Mr. Gracia and the resources he provided today. I know that was very helpful to myself and my colleagues. So if there is, any other thing similar to that or within that vein that you think, the city or us as a body can supply to help, better facilitate these conversations, please reach out to me because I'm very passionate about the issue and would love to be a part of making that happen. So thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks. Commissioner Moody?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think my colleagues have really basically said it all. But there's one thing that I want to focus on, and that is the fact that when we talk about lead-based paint, this morning Mrs. Bohach gave us a very comprehensive study and a plan on what the city is doing in reference to lead-based paint. In the 3rd Ward, yes, it is the highest, and is also high in the 1st Ward as well. But I think what's most important is that we continue to finance. My colleague, previous colleague, Commissioner Lanier, made it very clear that lead-based paint in homes must be a priority. And I think the city has taken the lead in making sure that is taking place. I think we've taken the lead in the state of Michigan. So I think as we continue to move forward with removing lead-based paint from homes, we will see education gets better among children. We will see that no other person is diagnosed with being filled with lead base within their body, within their system. So I think that we're on the verge of making some significant changes in the city of Grand Rapids along with that. Now, as far as the lead-based pipes are concerned, I'm still studying that. I think that's something that I personally want to take a much more closer look at. But I think the city is still on the move of making changes within its infrastructure to making our city better. And I appreciate that you guys are giving us an opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Nothing tonight.
City Attorney? City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for your work today. And what people see is the very the amount of scrutiny that you offer publicly, but I know that you all are working very hard off dais to really examine the issues and come very prepared for the meeting. And so I appreciate the work. I also appreciate the work of the staff, as you've heard today, and the public here tonight. I do want to, just to clarify that, unfortunately today we had a briefing scheduled to discuss how we continue to address members of our house community and increase housing supply, housing affordability, and we had 2 presenters who are working very close with the housing ecosystem, and unfortunately one was unable to attend because of COVID infection. So we're rescheduling that briefing, and it appears that it will be rescheduled to February 7th at 12:30 tentatively. We're going to replace our normal economic development project team with the public safety meeting, or have some combination of both. We'll figure it out. But what one does have an impact on the other. The other, I do want to also thank the staff for the work today on discussing the overview of the various incentive programs that we have and how to have development without displacement. I heard that conversation or that discussion today, and making sure that it is as inclusive as possible when looking at some of the needs of a growing city and growing community. And also, as you heard before, I want to clarify that our issue is lead-based paint in homes, and as it affects young children in terms of the blood infection rate that we have, and that the water quality in Grand Rapids continues to be among the highest in terms of ratings across the state of Michigan. And our issue is, again, when it comes to lead in pipes, but we intend not only to continue to implement preventive measures in both programs, for both lead paints and I think you heard today the briefing. We've been doing this with our federal funding for some years, and but we know that federal funding has not been sufficient to address all the inventory, and so we also are going to prioritize on our state agenda, Senator, for here, and seeing if there's a way to get additional assistance to do more homes. And we are going to bring forth the ordinance that this commission has asked for today, and we'll be thoughtful in how we bring that forward and ensure that we don't have displacement with any remediation in terms of the homes. And so thank you again, and have a good night.
Thank you, City Manager. I'll just add a couple things. I know my colleagues brought it up already, but I'll say it again. Updating our community master plan is a really significant process and an important process, and I encourage everyone to get involved in that. We do have a number of meetings coming up out in the community to kick that off, but it is a process that will continue throughout the year, and community engagement is so critical as we plan for growth in our community. So I hope you will be able to attend some of those meetings that are coming up. I'll add my strong support for updating our property maintenance code to include lead inspections. This has been a priority of mine for a long time. And then how we couple that with making sure that we have resources so that these properties can be updated where lead is eliminated and children aren't exposed to lead is really a priority for this entire body and our team, our city team. And then the last thing about housing, and Senator, I'm so glad you're here tonight. You know, the low-income housing tax credit program that Commissioner O'Connor talked about is an important program that is needed to offset the cost of low-income housing. Unfortunately, in our state, there's only a pot of money available for that, and it's an extremely competitive process. I'm very grateful, Grand Rapids, we were just awarded 2 in this last round, but the process is that there's a round each year, and far more applications are put in than are awarded. And that's the case every single year. So it shows the huge need and the limited resources at the state level to support those projects. And so my hope is that we'll be able to work with the state to take a look at that and figure out what we need to do. There's a new director at MSHDA who will be overseeing those programs. I'm excited to meet with her and see how we can work together. And Senator, I'm grateful you're here tonight. I've known you for a long time. We've worked together on a lot of important issues, from public transit to supporting veterans to green space, public spaces to housing. And I look forward to continuing to work with you and think about what we can do to address some of the issues actually that you heard tonight, whether it's around lead or housing or a whole host of other issues that are important to our community. So thank you for being here and for your service. And I know some of us will probably see you tomorrow in Lansing as well. So with that, we are adjourned.